Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's webinar. I am Jimmy Risch, one of the main developers on FormsViewer and FormsDesigner, and I will be your host today. We also have Hillary Stupa here. She and I have been working together to get all these new features ready for you, and I'll keep adding new features to these products. If any of you here are new to FormsViewer, just know that we have all sorts of training materials available. We did a training course not so long ago. If you're interested, just get in touch with us and we can point you in the right direction, or you can find them on our website. So today we're talking about FormsViewer 8.2, FormsDesigner 2.1, which we released about a month ago. Some of the main highlights are enhanced file attachment features in list forms, new FormsDesigner features and improvements, and various improvements to FormsViewer. Before we get started, I've got a couple of polls for you, a couple of quizzes. So let's get started with the first one. First question is, how many major releases of FormsViewer have there been? So how many major versions have there been? Get other questions. Okay. Next one. How many major versions of FormsDesigner have there been? Okay. Thank you. The next poll is a question for you. When was the last time you tried FormsDesigner? Okay, thank you. And lastly, do you have any list forms with attachment controls? Okay, looks like about 3/4 of you. Yeah, about 2/3, 3/4 of you do. Okay, that's good to know. Incidentally, for the first and second question, we had about 22 releases of FormsViewer so far. We try to get one out every quarter or every 2 quarters. FormsDesigner is a relatively recent product. We've had about 5 major releases for that. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at all the stuff we got out last month. You can see list forms. We've got this new attachments feature that I'm going to be showing you. We've been making improvements to our transform functionality. I know a lot of forms viewers don't take advantage of this directly, but it's very handy when time you need to do some complex data transformations. You can see we've got a bunch of new features for FormsDesigner. We're continuing to improve the experience there, try to bring it into feature parity with Info Path Designer, so you can use it as your primary way of modifying form templates. Okay, so let's look at this this feature here, this list form feature. So up until now, we've supported the ability to use the file attachment control in list forms. You can attach as many files as you want, and they're automatically saved out as attachments on the list items. But until now, if you actually went and clicked one of those files. What it does is it initiates a file download. You can see that these files are showing up down here. And for those of you using list forms, you're using SharePoint. SharePoint has all these great features for displaying Office documents and other things like text files. So wouldn't it be great if you could actually take advantage of that? And so someone asked if this was possible, and we looked into it, and yeah, it is. So let's talk about how you can do that in your form. So I've got my form. Actually, I don't. I'm opening up my form template here in FormsDesigner. And you can actually enable this functionality with the use of a QRules command. So your form needs to have QRules. If you're using our new designer, it's very easy. You just open up this tab here, click a button, and you're all set. And once you've got QRules, you're going to run a QRules command when you load the form. So you can see that on this slide here. It's this one down here. But if you wanted to find the command syntax on your own, let's talk about how you can do that. The best way to get information about QRules commands and the available parameters is still to use our legacy designer. So when you go to the upload template page, there's a legacy designer button. You just click that and that'll take you to here. And the way you enable this attachment feature is to use the use option command. This is a command that we've started adding stuff to that allows you to specify various options to take effect when somebody is using the form. And we've actually added some extensive information about the available options and how to use them here. So this is the one we're talking about today, this list form attachment link mode setting here. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it down here as the key, the setting name, and then you can see a list of valid options for that. Is browser, which is opening the files in the browser. Normal is to have a download, and default, if you just want to trust us about what's the best way to do it, you can put this. Currently, it'll default to normal, but we might change that in the future. So I'm going to go with browser here, and you can see it just builds up the command string here. Of course, we hope to eventually have this command builder in our new designer, but for now, the legacy designer is where to find and build these commands. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the new designer. I'm going to go to Qdabra rules, finish loading, and add a rule. So use attachment links. Of course, the rule name can be whatever you want, whatever makes sense. And I'm going to run a QRules command. Bring this up, just paste that in there, click OK, and save. And I'll come back to my form, refresh, and here we go. This is in French. This is my product design, product review for a non-existent product generated courtesy of ChatGPT. Here's the English version if you're interested. And I think it might be useful to actually look at how that works when you're actually uploading the files. So let's come in here, create a new review. File, my folder URL. And this one is going to be for the Stellar Wave Pro, another imaginary product. Okay, let's say I did my review here. I'm going to attach my file, Stellar Wave Pro, and Pro. You can see these are not showing as links just yet. That's because they haven't actually been saved out to SharePoint. They're still just stored right here within my browser session. But as soon as I submit to the list, it's going to automatically save out those attachments. And because I'm using the use option command, then the links will again open up in the browser. And based on your responses to the poll, it sounds like you've probably had some experience with this attachment control, but for those of you who haven't, it's actually pretty great. You don't have to do anything special to save these files out to SharePoint. You just have the control right in your form, and it'll save them out for you anytime you submit to the list, which is very nice. Okay, so that's that new feature. I think it's very useful. Next, let's talk about some of the things we've added to FormsDesigner. So up until this version, we didn't have the ability to use to modify dynamic dropdowns. You could only add static values to them. And most people who have been using FormsViewer or InfoPath for any length of time are familiar with dynamic dropdowns, but let's just have a look at those. So let's go here, and I actually will get a sneak preview of the next feature I'm going to talk about, which is adding rows and columns to tables. We can do that now. So I've got, let's see, I want to add a drop down to my form. I'll just come in here, I'm going to bind it to the main data source, this department field, which I'm not using in my form yet. Okay, that got added to the wrong place, so let's delete it and re-add it. Okay. There we go, department. Okay, so what am I gonna populate it with? I don't really have anything in here just yet to populate it. So it's actually gonna be, it's gonna be a set of values, but not specified here in the designer. I'm gonna put them in my XML. At some point, maybe query them from a list. But for now, actually, let's do that. Let's query them from a list. So I'll come in here to my site, back to site, new list. Department. Just add a couple of values here. Home appliances.
So while Jimmy's getting those departments added, I just want to roll back briefly to the demo on the opening up attachments in the browser. This is going to make your users more comfortable with FormsViewer. It's going to make migrations easier for your users because it now behaves more like an InfoPath form hosted in SharePoint. So I just wanted to highlight that. This will increase kind of ease of migration for you.
Yep, thank you, Hillary. Okay, so I've got my list. I got a couple of values in it. Let's query the list. So I'm just come over here, query from a list, departments. It's auto-populated, so I just come in here. I want the title column, and I want to sort by title too. Descending, add connection. All right, I got my connection. That was very quick and easy. Now I'm going to populate my drop down. You just come over here. We want static values. No, sorry, we want dynamic values. So I'm going to select dynamic. And I want departments. I'm going to select the repeating group for that. Not going to filter. We could filter, of course. I'm going to use the title as the display field and as the value field. As you can see here, you could use separate display and value fields. I think for a list of departments, maybe doesn't make so much sense. unless you have department codes or something. But here I'll just use these. Let's check whether that's being queried on load. It is. You can see that here. All right, let's save. And open. And oh, no, what's going on there? Not doing work. But just for the sake of argument, let's query it on load. Okay. Looks like we've got a bit of a bug there. I will have to look into that.
Yeah, because I know when we were testing this as you were wrapping up the work, I know it was working just fine. So something's awry.
Looks like, oh, I see.
It didn't save it.
I didn't click done. Okay. So
all is clear.
yeah,
All has been explained.
Make sure to click done when you're done. Okay, done. All right, and I can disable that rule that I added. Disable. Okay, let's give that another try. And there we go, quick and easy. And I can save that out. Come over to our list. And there it is, games. All right, so yeah, now you can modify dynamic dropdowns in FormsDesigner. Of course, as always, you can also use static options if you've only got a predefined set. Okay, so and the next feature I want to talk about is the ability to modify tables. We've had the ability to add layout tables to forms for a while now. You can add tables, you can modify the column widths. But if you want to add more rows or more columns, you don't have a way to do that. You didn't have a way to do that just yet, now you do. So you actually saw this when I did that here. I added another row right in the middle of this table. The background color was copied down, which is fine. Let's just look at adding a table. So here's my table. Some values in here. B, C, D, E, F, H. And as you can see, anytime you want to add a new row or column, just come in here, add row below, add row above, get columns, and so on. Yeah, and we've made sure that this feature works quite well with sort of wacky tables where some of the cells have been merged and things like that. So if you need to add rows and columns to your tables, now you can. Just a quick look at some stuff that's coming up soon. We're adding the DBXL data connection XTP to FormsDesigner. So if you're using DBXL, this is a quick and easy way to add DBXL submit functionality, add the ability to load documents, to use QueryDB in older DBXL forms, sort of upgrade your data connections to use the user key versions of DBXL's data web services. That's already been added to FormsDesigner on our side. We actually demoed it 2 weeks ago in our June 22nd webinar. So have a look at that if you're interested. It's very useful if you've got DBXL. We're also adding the ability to change form publish locations. So if you're migrating a form from one SharePoint environment to another, you need to be able to, you've got promoted properties, you want to add new ones to your library. Now FormsDesigner will allow you to repoint the publish location so that you can continue adding promoted properties as you need them. And also people pickers, we're looking to have support for adding people pickers to your views. Okay, whoops. All right, so I'm going to open it up for questions. Let me know if you have any.
So what is what are you thinking is going to be the release date for the new features like people pickers and adding the XTP and changing the published location? What's kind of the guesstimate as to when we're going to have those released?
We'll probably be wrapping up the work on it around mid-July, I think, maybe a little later. So given some testing and whatnot, I imagine maybe mid-August or thereabouts.
Wonderful.
Okay, doesn't look like we have any questions, but if you got any, just go ahead and type them in while we're waiting for that. Just want to let you know about Qdabra Forms. It's the lowest cost way to let go of InfoPath. You can move your form templates right into it as is with very minimal modification. Future-proof all your investment, all the time you spent putting those forms together. We support list forms, modern UI, all sorts of things that weren't available in InfoPath. New features like external user access, mobile views, things like that. We've got great support as always. Just let us know when you need help. We'll be here, and you can download it if you're using SharePoint Online. You can get the app from the SharePoint store. If you're on-prem, just let us know, and we can help you set it up. So it doesn't look like we're got any questions this week. So thank you all for attending. We hope to see you again in the next webinar. Have a good day.
Thanks so much, Jimmy. Thank you, Jimmy. Thanks everybody for coming. It was great seeing your names.
Bye-bye.